Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is my friend Andrea. She is a certified facilitator of The Work by Byron Katie, a method of identifying and questioning stressful thoughts. Using this method, Andrea does not overcome fear. Instead, she meets the fear in her life with understanding and compassion. And then the fear lets go of her. This is the practice that has beautifully transformed every aspect of Andrea's life. And it is her heart's desire to share this practice wherever minds are open. Andrea, thank you so much for coming on and sharing more about what you do, how you do it, and what you bring to the table. So, how are you doing today? Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me here. And I'm so happy to be here with you.
Yes, I cannot wait. You're such a delight to talk to. And I wanna just start out by you just telling us something that's interesting about you and your life.
Mm. Well, I think what's most interesting about my life these days is that it looks absolutely nothing like what I would imagine that it looked like.
Right.
Um, and when I questioned my thoughts, I had all these ideas about what I needed to be safe, to be okay, to be happy. And life showed me, no, I didn't. And so what does that leave me with? That leaves me with just this sense of following the simple directions. And sometimes
Yeah.
it's really obvious, the simple directions say, wash the dishes, I wash the dishes. Um, and sometimes that means it's taking me into some wild, crazy places I've never imagined. I never imagined I would live in Santa Fe. I just didn't imagine most of my life. So I guess what's interesting about me is I'm totally winging it, and
Yeah.
it's working for me.
Yeah. That's awesome. You said a phrase the first time I met you. What did you call yourself? Something about a nomad, maybe? Was it a nomad?
Yeah. Well, life as it happened, uh, my story was that when I was so overwhelmed by fear in my life, and what I was thinking and believing, I was very sick. I lost all my money. I lost my home. I was unable to work.
Yeah.
And losing my home meant that people started taking me in, and I got to be shown what a kind and friendly universe it was.
Right.
And it was a place of work for me. I'm losing my home. Is it true? And when I really sat with it and considered it, when I really sat with how I feel when I believe that thought, it was my thinking that made me homeless.
Right.
And I got multiple lessons on this. It took multiple lessons, every time my living situation would shift, to notice that it wasn't possible to lose my home.
Yeah.
And then I started to notice the real value of having all of my stuff fit into my Honda, that I had the freedom to just get in my car and go and
Yeah.
experience different places and experience different people. And turns out I really love living that way.
Yeah. That's a freedom a lot of people don't have, to just go and change directions like that. So, I mean, I love that you are able to switch the mindset of that and just say, like, actually, that's a real blessing. And granted, you didn't have that mindset at one point, but
No, I did not at
you
first.
found the tools and the resources to help you move through that. And I love that that's part of that is your story. You thought instantly the fear of everything that you were losing, and then it got switched to what you really have in front of you, which is freedom.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. I love that. So let's dive into talking about fear right away, as we already are. But let's talk specifically about the time in your life when fear was holding you back from living your life fully. So we're kind of already doing that. Let's dive in a little bit deeper with that, and tell us more about how you were feeling during those times when the fear was holding you back.
Yeah.
So where were you mentally during that, and how did you feel about yourself?
Hmm. So I'll go right to where it was the worst, the
Yes.
darkest. I was diagnosed with a connective tissue disorder. It's called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and it's characterized by chronic pain. And it's mostly women who seem to be diagnosed, although not
Okay.
completely. There also seems to be a threshold of symptoms where, I was kind of a klutzy child. I had some symptoms, but the really life impacting symptoms didn't happen till about my 40s.
Okay.
And at that point, I started to experience severe chronic pain. And it was so intense that sometimes I could not work. And then after a while, I couldn't work at all. It was so intense that sometimes I couldn't get out of bed.
Yeah.
And I was pretending in my life. And the pain was terrible as I was experiencing it. But worse than the pain was the shame that I felt.
Yeah.
And the thought that I should be doing better than I was. The thought that my body wasn't here to support me. The thought that no one could understand my pain.
Yeah.
Those were terrifying thoughts. And it was that terror that had me so disabled in my life.
I think that's a huge thing too, is like the feeling alone is the biggest part about fear. You know, when you're in that space of whatever it is that we are fearing and every day, you know, it's just the fear of like that you're the only person that has these negative thoughts or this negative thing in your life right now. And that's how the fear holds us back, right? Like the feeling of isolation and being alone in those fears. So the fact that you said that, I was like, yeah, that's a powerful point, is that, you know, you felt like you're alone in it. And it's just, that's how it kind of paralyzes you and stops you from making progression and moving forward, and moving through that kind of self-doubt. So yeah, I like that. So when you were like breaking free from the fear and moving in the new direction, how did that play out in relationships for you with friendships and stuff? How did that shift for you as you were figuring out you were losing your stuff, you're having all of these chronic pains and like you can't work and all of that stuff? Dive in a little bit more about like relationships and how that played into your life too.
Well, you know, because I believed that no one could understand my pain, I cut myself off from people.
Sure.
I isolated myself. And, you know, I was really angry at people for not showing up for me while I was isolating myself and while I was trying to pretend that everything was okay. So how could they possibly have understood my pain?
Yeah.
And my pain, it was, you know, I mean, it was so personal to me. It felt personal, even though it wasn't. So, so all of my relationships became isolated, you know, and the worst relationship was the relationship with me. You know, so I would think something like, I need to get out, I need to connect with people, or I'm going to be alone. And so I'd make plans with someone, knowing it was unrealistic given where I was in terms of my body and what it was capable of. And then the time would come and I'd cancel. And they'd get upset. Right. You know, that I would cancel, but I was just so, you know, I was so, I wasn't understanding I was expecting them to understand what I couldn't understand. I was expecting them to give me compassion when I wasn't giving compassion to myself and saying, you know, honey, this is the best you can do right now.
Yeah.
You know, you're the only one here alone in this room. Can you stay with you? Can you be connected to you? I wasn't capable of that while I was believing my thoughts.
Wow. Yeah. And that's a really powerful thought too, is just being alone with our thoughts and when we are isolating ourselves, that's how the negatives stay there.
Oh, and then they multiply, you know, they have babies, they come up with more. It just gets, you know, and so my world just got smaller and smaller and smaller until it was like my bed was the only safe space, and it wasn't really, you know, because it was still me and my thoughts.
Right. Right. And yeah, there's no one else to help pull you out of that and snap you back to the fact that, you know, you're better than that. You can do more than that. You can do more because it's your life.
Or to meet me where I was, which was that actually, given where I was at, physically, I couldn't.
Okay.
You know, but could I be kind to myself? Could I have compassion? Could I meet, you know, so I spent a lot of time trying to force this body to do things that it couldn't do. I try to spend a lot of time arguing with reality thinking that it should be different than it was. If I can't get this body, then that's where the fear, if I can't get this body to work better, I'm not going to be able to work. I'm going to lose all my money. I'm going to, the nightmare.
Yeah.
By the time those things happened to me, I had this way of questioning my thoughts. And so I was able to see that the worst thing that could happen to me was a thought. In my life, that's what it took for me to understand how safe I was. So, I'm lying in bed. I'm in pain. I have the thought, I should be doing something. I still work on that one. I still think I should be doing something sometimes when I'm not.
Right.
It's not, and so in that moment, is it true I should be doing something as I'm lying here in bed in pain? Can I absolutely know that it's true that I should be doing something? How do I react? What happens when I believe I should be doing something? I feel shame. I see images of the past where I could do things. Why can't I do them now? I see images of the future of me losing everything. I feel ashamed. I feel isolated. And then the thought is, well, who would I be without the thought that I should be doing something?
Yep.
I'd be a woman lying in bed taking care of herself. I'd be a woman doing the best that she could. And then I look for turnarounds. So in that situation, how could it be true or truer that I shouldn't be doing something? Well, I had lots of evidence of me exhausting myself, hurting myself, breaking things, pushing myself beyond what was realistic, so I shouldn't be doing something. Or another turnaround is always to my thinking. I should be doing something with my thinking. Where can I meet this thinking with understanding?
Yeah.
And, in that process, when I started to show compassion for myself exactly where I was, I started getting out of bed more. And these days, actually, sometimes, I'll run around and then I rest.
Yeah.
And I'll notice, that I should be doing something. I mean, it's so embedded in our culture, but I notice that when I give myself that stillness, when I give myself that space, when this body does get up and run around, it's so much more effective.
Yes.
I'll blow through the to-do list in, 2 hours, and I thought it was going to take me all week. So maybe it's truer that sometimes I shouldn't do something. Maybe that stillness is exactly what I need to be most effective in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. We're thrown so many different things in a day that, it's inevitable that fear creeps in when you're receiving so much in a day, whether that's through social media or watching TV or working in person with people or whatever it is. We're thrown so many different things. So to really streamline them and know, checking in with your own thoughts is absolutely important. And the stillness and all of that, that's where that all comes from, is sitting with yourself, getting used to it. Go ahead.
Fear is such a gift. I don't need to be reminded to check in with my thoughts. If I'm experiencing any stress, I can dial into the stress that I'm feeling and identify the thought that's running. You should have been kinder to me. Whatever it is, the stress is the flag that shows me to check in with my thinking.
Yeah. So tell us more about what actually compelled you to jump ship from having those fears of, you having the lack thereof with everything. And so tell us more about, how you jumped ship from that.
Well, in my case, it took some really drastic situations, and it's not the case for everyone. It's what I needed. I just wanted the pain to go away. I just wanted it to stop. And I had tried everything I could think of, reasonable and unreasonable. And I was severely depressed. And then, and suicidal, I had suicidal thoughts. And so in my back of my mind, it was like, well, I'll always have that option, that I could just end my life if I can't handle it. And one day I got to the point where I wanted to end my life.
Wow.
And as I was planning my suicide, the thought came in that it would hurt my daughter. And that was the end of that plan. And at the time, it wasn't good news for me, because I just imagined a life of suffering.
Right.
Until I died. And I found myself begging, and I didn't know who. I wasn't a spiritual person or anything. I'm begging myself, begging God. I didn't know that if I couldn't find a way to make peace with the pain, no, if I couldn't find a way to make the pain go away, to please give me a way to make peace with it. And then I had been introduced to the work of Byron Katie earlier. The main book is called Loving What Is. And the idea is that it's only when I argue with reality that I suffer. So I had discounted it. I lost my mom to cancer. How could I ever love that reality? That sounds like a good tool, good for somebody else. Too bad it's not going to work for me. And at that moment where I was so desperate, it came back in. And I downloaded the book on my computer and I read it that night. And the first thought I questioned was, I need to be out of pain to be happy. Is it true? And I was really shocked to find out it wasn't true, that there was a place where I could experience pain in this body and not suffer.
Wow. Yeah.
And that was the beginning. And if I really stayed present with myself for the course of a breath, I wasn't even in pain if I slowed it down that much.
Well, that's
so
huge.
Then I was a woman taking it one breath at a time who still couldn't get out of bed. But it was just me in bed with my thoughts. It was like the kindness that life just kind of pinned me to the bed and said, question your thoughts or suffer. It's up to you.
Wow. Yeah, the mental game is definitely life-changing once you sit with it, learn more about yourself. And no one knows you better than you, right?
Yeah. Oh, and that's what I love about this way of questioning. You can get advice. The social media, everyone will tell you what you should do.
Yep.
When I ask these questions, the wisdom that comes to meet them, it comes from me. I can feel that it feels in alignment with me. It's just clear. So it comes from a source that I can trust.
Yeah.
And practice in my life. It wasn't just I questioned a thought. It was because then life shows me what's left. Where do I think my body should be a different size than it is? Where do I think it should be warmer than it is? Where do I think that he should be more thoughtful than he is? Turns out I've spent my whole life trying to change everyone and everything so that I could be happy. And these days I take the shortcut. And I go right to my thinking and I give it to myself. What do I need to be happy now, to question anywhere I'm arguing with reality?
Yeah. That process, even just the thought process, I could see how that can go with anything and everyone, and how it can help so many people understand their thoughts so much easier. And it doesn't take much time, right? So you are asking specific questions and moving through the process just step by step. And it only takes a few minutes to just check back in, right?
I've heard Byron Katie, who founded this work, say, if you're in a hurry, slow down. So identifying the thought can be quick. And I do that all day long. Is like, I'll be going through my day and I'll feel a little stress. A thought will come up. I'll write it down. I might not have time to deal with it right then. And then I give myself the time and space, because some of these questions, it's like, there's a piece of me that really believes it. So it's like, he doesn't care about me. Is it true? And so I meditate on the situation where I was so convinced that he didn't care about me. And I take another look. The ego would be like, yes, it's true. Next question. And then, but if you move it through it that quickly, that you miss the opportunity to really sit and understand. So on one level, I will sit with a question for, or piece, for hours, for days. Sometimes, it's quick. So in some ways I do devote a lot of time to it, but on another way, without these thoughts impeding me, my life is on fire. Like, things are opening up, so if I had the thought, I can't do that, I'm not good enough, I don't have what it takes. How much time did that thought take up in my life? How did that thought trip me up? How did that stop me from being brave or creative? So yeah, I put the time in up front, but then without the thought that I'm not good enough, the world opens up to me. So a lot of people, they see the work and they're like, I don't have time for that. And if I started looking at my thoughts, it would be opening up a hornet's nest. I would never be done with my work. I would just have to sit there and question my thoughts all day long. I'd never be productive. And in my life, I've come to really trust the process and see it as tremendously effective in my life. And sometimes that means just sitting with the thought when part of me is like, I should be doing something.
I need to do more. And that's right.
Yeah.
That's a huge culture thing in America. They're like, we're not doing enough. If you're not busy, then you're not doing enough. When in reality, it's productive, not busy. But
yeah, I mean, busy was a major addiction in my life. I needed to be busy to feel valuable. So you speak so much about that I am enough. And it's like, there's so many ways, there's so many subtle things, like I'm not enough if I'm not busy. I'm not enough if I don't have enough money. I'm not enough if this body is not the right size. And so it's pervasive.
yeah.
But life keeps showing me, where I've just gotten caught in a thought again, and I can just bring it back and say, honey, is it true? In this situation, can you be absolutely sure that you're not enough?
Yeah. And that's huge. So what, as you said, we can always get advice from everyone, but so what kind of advice do you give people about moving through fear or overcoming it? I know you said you don't overcome it, you kind of just move through it and through the process. So what kind of advice would you give people with the tools that you now have for yourself?
So first, I do notice that anytime I'm giving advice, it's for me first.
Good.
So it's like, what advice do I have for me when it comes to moving through this? It's, well, first of all, there's no right or wrong. In those times when I'm believing my thoughts, I'm innocent in that. I've never not been able to believe a thought in the moment that I've believed it. So my advice is just to slow down and to notice what's running for me, and to notice the cost of believing that thought and who I would be without that thought. So my advice is that anytime I feel stress, identify the thought, write it down. Katie says all war belongs on paper, so it freezes it in time. And then ask those questions. Is it true? Can I absolutely know that it's true? How do I react when I believe that thought? And who would I be without that thought? And then as I look for the turnarounds, the opposites to what I was believing, there's an invitation there to live out of those opposites. So if I have the thought, he should listen to me, I take it through those 4 questions. And then in the turnarounds, like, my advice to me is, I should listen to him. That's my medicine. That's what I need. I need to listen, and I should listen to myself. Where in that situation that I thought he should listen to me, was I not listening to myself?
Yeah, that's a huge point too. I think a lot of people do that. We give advice that we ourselves need.
Yes.
It's a great internal reminder, I feel like, too. And sometimes people don't realize they need the reminder. But as you said, it is a great reminder when you say it. And I'm a huge advocate of self-care. Well, I find myself going, man, I need a massage and I need to go to the chiropractor. I need to loosen my stuff up. And I'm just I preach this to people all the time, self-care, you're the first person. But then it's the people that are reminding others of those things and bringing them up that we also need those reminders, which is, what is that? If you can't do, teach, so, yeah.
Yeah.
So
it can be fun to notice where you have advice for other people.
Yeah.
And notice that it's really advice for yourself, because my mind will go around all day saying you should do this and you should do that. And every time it's like, well, how can I take that in?
Yeah.
Because innocently, the mind, it has opinions,
Yes, absolutely. And okay, so the question I remember I was going to ask is, what was the time frame when you first looked into the work by Byron Katie and how you actually started like implementing in your life? What was the kind of the time span for that?
Mm. Well, when I questioned I need to be out of pain to be happy, the shift that happened was so powerful. It was like I came back from the dead in that moment.
Wow.
So in some ways, it was instant. And in some ways, I really did die in that moment. The one who thought that she needed to be out of pain to be happy, she died. I can't live out of that identity anymore. So boom, instant transformation. And that's when it started to become a practice in my life. I knew that I just knew that I wanted more. It was the most powerful tool I'd ever run into. And so I opened up the website and I saw that she had a 9-day school, and some piece of me went, I'm going to that. And I was already not working and, had money issues, and my body, I was terrified about getting on a plane, never mind sitting in a room for 9 days. Like, how was I going to, and I'd never done spiritual anything. I'd never gone away by myself, certainly not for 9 days. Who has time for that? So I had all of these objections, and there I was doing it.
Yeah. Wow. And yeah, 9 days is a long time for anyone to be like, yeah, I'm going to go do that.
Yeah, it's called the School for the Work, and it's the school of you. And it was the best gift I ever gave myself. And when I came out of that,
this is the best gift we can give to ourselves. Growing. If we're not getting out of the fear spaces, then we are not growing, and you're stunting yourself if you're sitting in the fear, especially for too long, because then those thoughts just fester.
That's right. And then they get stronger too. If I'm believing he doesn't care about me, it's like I have my blinders on to, it's like all I see are men who don't care about me.
Yep. Or all the reasons.
The story, then I see caring, like how, but the mind will continue to look for proof.
Yeah. Yeah.
For my victim story.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So with, what was I just going to say? So with the work, how do you implement this in what you do for work? Do you do coachings with people through this? So if someone had a question about it, and they wanted to talk to you instead of going to that 9-day workshop, do you do coachings with this program for yourself?
Yeah. So, I work with individuals and I work with larger groups. So with individuals, people will come to me and they'll say, I'm experiencing this suffering. I'm experiencing feeling really stuck. I have a client, for instance, he's like, I just feel so apathetic in my life. There's nothing I want to do. And so we did a lot of work around, it turns out he had thoughts like, it's too much for me. So there he is at work and he sees the phone blinking and he's got all these voicemails that he needs to answer, and he has the belief, it's just too much for me. And it leads to this sense of apathy and disconnection in his life. And he was able to go back, into the past and see how that was an early childhood belief too. There his parents are fighting and he had the thought, it's too much for me. And so by questioning that situation, there he is, well, with the lights flashing, and he needs to listen to those voicemails and respond to them. Without that thought, he's like, well, it's actually not a big deal. I can just do that. So, but other people, I have, they might come to me about money. They might come to me about relationships. Anywhere there's stress, and it's the formula is the same. Identify the thoughts, we write them down, and we question them.
Yeah.
And then in groups, it's really the same thing. It's really, there's no new, Katie says there's no new thoughts. They're all recycles.
Yeah.
So if I am in a room, with chronic pain patients, and I'm doing the work with someone on, my body isn't here to support me. Well, chances are everyone in the room can find a place where they thought that their body wasn't there to support them. And so there's a power just to witnessing this work. You know, some brave person gets up there and they share how they react when they believe that thought and who they would be without that thought. And those who are witnessing were like, wow, you just opened
Powerful.
something up for me too.
Yeah.
So this work is applicable anywhere there is stressful thoughts. It's applicable in medicine and government and business and social justice. And what it really boils down to is like my happiness. You know?
Yep. And that's all anybody wants, is to be happy, right?
Yeah.
That's the goal, being happy. And
Yeah.
we're the only ones that can do that for ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And my whole life, I thought it was outside situations that I needed to shift to be happy. And it's not. Happiness is always available to me. And sometimes my thinking clouds that. And so I forget.
Just got to clear the clouds.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. So, okay, so now that you have the tools and the resources for moving through those fears more frequently and easier with ease, where do you see yourself in 5 years from now? I mean, you have stuff going and you're kind of just open to where this is taking you. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
It's such a fun question.
I'm a big dreamer. I love asking.
It's been an area that's up for me because one thing this work has shown me is what I don't know. Like, you know, how would I know? You know, I couldn't have seen that life would take me, you know, to this place where I was a nomad and I moved from New England to Santa Fe. You know, I couldn't have predicted any of that.
Yeah.
So on one level, my vision is to follow life where it takes me. On another, but I found myself at a vision board gathering recently, and you know, even though my vision is what do I know, there I was sticking things on a piece of paper, and my vision is to have a happy life and to be in service and peace in my world. This way of questioning is the way to peace in my world, which is the only world I can never know.
Right.
And so that's my vision: more peace.
More peace.
And the way I imagine, you know, and so I've imagined a lot of things, and I've come to the conclusion that, you know, maybe it'll happen the way I imagine. If it doesn't, it could only be better. That's the only possibility, is that life will give me what I need in a way I haven't been able to imagine. So what I imagine is, well, I would very much like to work with patients with chronic pain. It's where I come from. I know that pain intimately. So I envision working with patients with chronic conditions, with health conditions. I envision working with government. There's a little confusion in government these days, you know. I envision working with businesses, you know, wherever this way of questioning comes in, the result is always kinder, more ethical, more powerful, more clear. So it's like, all right, life, where do you want me? You know, I want peace. I want to be in service. And so my vision is for life to show me.
I love it. That's awesome. So, so where can everyone connect with you personally, Andrea?
So I have a website. It's AndreaCassola.com, and my last name is Cassola. That's a good place to connect with me. I love answering questions about the work. So feel free to reach out to me. People can also go to thework.com and get all of the resources they need. So I'm available to support people in this process. And, you know, there's different modes. You know, some people, they respond well to doing work on their own. With a book, there's an app that you can download on thework.com. So I recommend checking out both. Check out thework.com and then check out AndreaCassola.com. And I would love to support anyone who is interested in questioning their thoughts in the name of peace.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for your time today, coming on and sharing a little bit more about what the work is and how it's affecting your life and helping other people move through the fears and thoughts that they have. I think it's totally incredible. Andrea's actually done a sample session with me and it was amazing. Highly recommend that you reach out to Andrea and talk to her about any questions you guys have. She's amazing to talk to personally. So thank you, Andrea, for your time again today. And this was just delightful.
Thank you so much. It's so good to be here. So good to have this time with you. And thank you for your work, of empowering women when it comes to fear. That's beautiful work.
Thank you. I love doing it. It's something that I've been fearful of in the past, but I'm like, okay, I have to move through those things too. So I'm just delighted to be here, and everyone that comes on the journey with me, it's so fun. So thank you very much. And guys, remember to love yourself and live fearlessly. Thank you.